Welcome to episode 39 of the Create If Writing podcast. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and this is the podcast for writers and bloggers all about authentic platform building without being smarmy.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
So you may be able to hear a little difference in the sound of the recording. I am actually recording this from the floor of a room I am renting through Airbnb in Austin, and I'm here for the Smarter Artist Summit, which is fantastic, and it's put on by the guys from the Self-Publishing podcast. And so if you're at all interested in self-publishing, that is a great podcast to check out to get more insider information about self-publishing. So I want to actually dive into a sort of recap of day one of the Smarter Artist Summit, because there are some really great threads to pull out, whether you are interested in self-publishing or if you're a blogger trying to reach an audience that way. So I'm going to pull some of those threads out from the talks today, but I want to start with a few quick things first. I usually do this at the end, but I wanted to give a great thank you and a shout out to Jasmine Commerce of JasmineCommerceMusic.com. She is the one with the lovely voice who provides the intro and outro music for this podcast. And Jasmine and I went to college together, and she is living in California and is a professional singer and songwriter, and love her to death. She does a great job. So go check out her music at JasmineCommerceMusic.com. And thanks so much for lending your talent to the show, Jasmine. Second of all, I want to let you guys know about the Foundation series, which I've talked a little bit about on the podcast before, but it is a 4-part workshop series that I did mostly live over the last month. And I've actually packaged it together as a little mini course, and I'm selling it right now for $49. And it's almost 6 hours of video workshops. And basically what the Foundation series does, it's not just for beginners, although it's great if you're starting out, but it's to help you get a strong foundation under your blog or your business or your brand. It helps you to identify your why and then apply that why to the very big and very small details of your blog, your email list, your images, and your social media strategy. You can find it at createifwriting.com/foundation series. And if you order before April 1st, which is this week if you're listening currently, you can actually get 2 bonuses. The first is 31 Small Steps to Grow Your Blog, which is a book I put out that's almost like a mini course in itself, which is how readers have described it, that goes through 31 small accessible things that you can do to grow your blog. And the second is a copy of my new book that's coming out next week, fingers crossed, Email Lists Made Easy for Writers and Bloggers. So if you order the Foundation series before April 1st, you're also going to get those 2 bonuses, which means you'll get the Email Lists Made Easy book before it's even up for sale on Amazon. Lucky you. So again, you can head over to createifwriting.com/foundation series. And now I want to talk about the Smarter Artist Summit Day 1. We heard from 4 really fantastic writers and people in the industry of self-publishing or indie publishing. And I found that there was a really common thread that resonated with me. So I'm going to kind of walk through the 4 sessions and share a few quotes and thoughts from each one. And then at the end, sort of tie them together and give you guys some application ideas for this. Okay, so first, Mark Lefebvre from Kobo Writing Life spoke, and I was really just excited to hear him talk about author relations, because if you know much about Amazon and self-publishing through Amazon, you'll know that there is not author relations, I guess, with Amazon. I mean, you know, it's fantastic that there's the tool that you can put books out there, but yeah, it's a great tool, but that's where it ends. There's not a relationship between Amazon and authors, unlike Kobo. And it's very clear from listening to Mark how passionately they feel about making money and also serving the writers, which is just a very different and refreshing point of view. One of the things that was talked about in his session, and each session wasn't just a sort of typical speech, or lecture is not the right word, but it wasn't just a solo act. The three guys from the self-publishing podcast, David Wright, Sean Platt, and Johnny B. Truant, had a conversation with each speaker, which was a kind of refreshing also way to get through each session. So some of these quotes and pieces kind of came from the culmination of the conversation. So if I knew who said it, I wrote it down, but it could be that it's not a direct quote from Mark. So I just want to kind of make that clear in case any of you are listening, you're like, I didn't say that. Well, it came from the conversation, but I didn't always write down who was talking at the moment. So one of the things that was said in his session was that people will forget about you without a relationship. And there was a lot of talk about, buying specific titles. And this is something that came up in episode 38 when I was talking with Joanna Penn from the Creative Penn. And she said the same thing, that you may remember the title of the book, but once you become a super fan, what you remember is the author's name. And so you need to establish that relationship. And this is hitting on the beginning of the theme, but that happens through your email list. So it's really important that you are actually establishing a relationship with your readers so that they're not just one-time title buyers. You want them to be author buyers. And that's something that's really important too if you're, not self-publishing, but you're establishing a presence as a blogger. You need to find those readers who will come back. They don't just come for that one recipe or the one post about whatever. They're coming for you in that relationship. The second session was with Julie Huss, whose pen name is J.A. Huss, and she is a best-selling New York Times, USA Today writer of romance. And she was so much fun. And she definitely has a great relationship with her fans as well, primarily through Facebook, although she is also talking about building her list. So she said that it all comes back to the fans. It all comes back to the fans. And there's a difference between readers and fans. I loved how she made the distinction, and what she said about this difference is that readers are the people who get your book for free or when it's 99 cents. Your fans buy the next book at full price. And I think that can be translated into other genres as well. Again, if you're listening and you're not someone who self-publishes, but the readers are the ones who kind of just drop by. They might casually see what you're doing. They might show up every now and then. The fans are the ones who, the second you make a post somewhere, they comment on it. If you ask them to do something, they do it. If you ask them to reply to an email, they respond. If you ask them to share something, they do it. So they're the people that actually take action. And again, they're there for you. And then something that Sean Platt said that I actually quoted and wrote down that he said it, but he said that people are never going to resonate with the best version of you. And what he was referring to was kind of sometimes there's this temptation to appear perfect or appear really polished or a certain way. And polish is good. But when we reveal that vulnerability, that's when people really connect with us and they actually begin to respect us more. And I don't mean by that vulnerability like apologizing for everything, because I was just, that was another point that was hit, that we don't need to apologize for everything. Like, oh man, I haven't posted a blog in a long time, or I haven't emailed in forever, and shoot, this picture is really bad. In fact, I actually just got an email today from someone talking about how if we're apologizing for all these different things, then maybe you just shouldn't post it. Like if you're like, sorry, the quality of this photo is bad, maybe don't post that photo. So that's not what I mean by vulnerability, but it's kind of when you share your mistakes, when you share the things that are hard for you, that you're struggling with, that you didn't do perfectly, and the mistakes that you learned from. And so that vulnerability and that authenticity is really what makes readers and listeners turn into deeper fans, because they really relate to you more. You see more human. Whereas in that quote where Sean said that people are never going to resonate with the best version of you, it's kind of because they know that version is not the real you. And there's that sense that it's more of a construct, that it's something fake. And it just kind of puts people at arm's length. And that's not what you want to do. You want to draw them close. Next up was James Tan from Podium Publishing, which is actually the group that brought The Martian to audiobook form. And I think you guys have all heard about The Martian. So it was really great to hear from him and kind of some of the backstory of how that came to be and some of the inside things about how that worked. But one thing that he said that was just fantastic was to go after your ideal fan from day one and over deliver. And I love that idea. Not just go after your fans, not just go after people, go after your ideal fan from day one. And many of us are already past day one. We have a presence online, we have some books, or we have blog posts, we have people on our email list. And so it's past day one, but we still can think about who those ideal readers are, who the ideal audience member is that we're trying to reach. And then we want to treat those people like VIPs. They are our people. They are the ones that get the best from us. They're the ones that we are vulnerable with, but also the ones that we share the best things with, the ones that we give freebies to, the ones that we really make quality content for them. And I think that's really important. And something that was interesting in his session as well was thinking about audiobooks. And he talked about how not everybody who listens to your podcast is going to want to listen to an audiobook, even though both are in audio form. Not everyone who reads or buys your book is going to want to listen to the audiobook. They're all different audiences, and you have to treat them that way. Things are different for each group, and they're not the same. And so you need to think about maybe who your ideal reader is in the book category, but also the ideal listener is going to be in the audiobook category because they're not the same person. And so that distinction is really important. And that thread was continued when Andre Chaperone talked. And Andre is the creator of Autoresponder Madness, which is a phenomenal looking course that I've heard only great things about. And it's about email. So of course, you know that I'm really excited about it. But I also heard him speak at the Email Success Summit, and that was a really fantastic session as well. And so he talked about how it's important to treat people differently depending on where they came from. And meaning, he's got a whole lot of autoresponder series. And that's one of the things he talked about is that you have different landing pages and entry points for those people. And it's really important to know where the people came from and to keep that in context. So unless you're sending out like only one basic broadcast each week, if you're doing anything different at all, it's really important to know where those people came from. Did they sign up from the back of a book they bought on Amazon? Did they come to your landing page from Google when they Googled something? Did they come from your Instagram account? All these things are really important because they give a context to who that person is and what they might be interested in hearing from you. So kind of the overarching theme, which I'm sure you heard as I kind of gave these really brief recaps of these sessions today, it's really important to have a targeted and ideal audience in mind when you're writing and creating content. You want to go after somebody specific, a specific group, not just the masses, not everybody, but it needs to be targeted and have some context for those people. And then once you find those targeted people, you need to be awesome to them. And I think it sounds kind of easy and simple, but it's really not sometimes. And we heard from a lot of people who had questions about what in the world do they email people and send to them and how should they do this? So we all struggle with that content, but I think it's really important to figure out what it is they want and really over deliver, as that quote went from James Todd, and thinking about how you can give them something really great, how you can be, and maybe that's your vulnerability. Maybe that's something great is a really raw and refreshing post for them or email for them, but some kind of content for them that is going to be exclusive, that's going to be really exciting and something that is important for them to have. And then thinking about that vulnerability that draws them closer because you don't want them at arm's length. If you want real fans, like Julie Huss talked about, you can't keep those people at arm's length. You can't give them some kind of polished, fake, best version of yourself that doesn't really exist and that we all know doesn't exist. You want to give them that raw, real, vulnerable, but still intentional. And I think that's the difference is if you are, and you've seen this on Facebook probably primarily, when people kind of have those meltdowns, and it's really awkward and they do those passive aggressive vague posts. That's not what I'm talking about with being raw and real and vulnerable. Okay. That's sort of like the people that you're like, oh man, that's just not what you post on Facebook. You don't want to make people uncomfortable. And so it's definitely an intentional vulnerability that you have to think about. But that doesn't make it any less vulnerable. It just means you're a little bit wiser and you're not oversharing or drawing people into some kind of like really awkward situation where you're talking about your mom-in-law. So yeah, you want to be intentional, but you want to be vulnerable and real with those people. That you want to actually establish a relationship. And if you're establishing that relationship and going after the targeted readers and treating them really, really well, then you are building in those amazing fans that go beyond just the casual readers. So that's my first day's takeaway. And we have a whole nother day, and I'm not even sure I can fit in all the content in my brain. I might get to do a second recap, but it depends how tired I am. So this is the recap from day 1 of the Smarter Artist Summit. And again, you should really head over to the Self-Publishing Podcast and check that out to learn more about how you can self-publish. And I think it's really exciting, just the vibe of being at a conference like this with so many creative professionals who are bootstrapping and working so hard and making this work for them. And really, a lot of them making a good living doing it. It's just so exciting, the energy and the hopefulness and kind of the excitement, because 10 years ago, this was not the reality. 5 years ago, it was a different reality. And in one of the sessions, it was said that we're really still on the cusp. Like, we are really still at the beginnings of this. So it's a very exciting time, I think, for publishers and content creators and indie writers especially. So yeah, I'm feeling a little cheesy and hopeful and excited, but I love conferences and getting my nerd on. So with that, I think I need to go refresh and get some sleep. And I'm so excited that you tuned in tonight. I hope this was something that, got you excited and refreshed and thinking about your fans and turning your readers into fans, not just leaving them as readers. Don't forget to check out the Foundation Series, createifwriting.com/Foundation Series to get your free books as a bonus before April 1st. And I hope you have an inspired week.